Well, now we have three. This week, former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty became the third Republican to toss his hat into the presidential ring with the formation of an exploratory committee. He's in on the heels of Herman Cain, entrepreneur, Tea Party activist, former CEO of Godfather's Pizza, who's in, and something called a Fred Karger, who so far the only qualification I can find for him to be president of the United States is that he likes to have sex with other guys. That seems to be the entire centerpiece of his campaign. So there may be three candidates, but really I guess there's really only two that are serious about a run at the presidency, and not a gay pride centerfold contest. So let's take a look at Tim Pawlenty and him as a candidate. To me, Tim Pawlenty strikes me as the kind of guy that would be a lot of people's second or third choices in the Iowa caucuses. His record's pretty good. Others have one that's a little bit better. He's fairly conservative, but others are more so. He can raise money. Others can raise a little bit more. You know, he's just sort of that average guy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not the guy. You know, if you've got a contest where there's a lot of different big personalities that are canceling each other out, there's something to be said for that steadying influence, that guy that you know that he's going to be who he is no matter, what the situation is or, what the circumstances would dictate. I did have a chance to spend some time with Tim Pawlenty a couple of months back when he was here for the first Family Leader presidential lecture series. I spent the afternoon with him. And I found him to be a guy, and this is going to sound like a slam, but it's not meant to, but he seemed to me to be maybe a little bit more right of center than George W. Bush. I thought his temperament was very similar, very decent-hearted, easy to get along with, a person that obviously is a people person. But I also didn't get the sense on an issue basis, I mean, he's certainly more conservative than Barack Obama, but, that's not saying much. But I didn't get the sense that he was really a challenge to the system. There wasn't one issue. Really, there weren't any issues that I listened to him for a few hours that afternoon and thought, yeah, that's his bread and butter. I mean, let's look at a guy like Ron Paul, for example. I think Ron Paul's wrong on 2 or 3 things that really matter to me. But there's a couple, 2 or 3 things he's really, really right on. You may say a Mike Huckabee is a 2-issue candidate as a social conservative, but at least he has those issues. I mean, you know what his bread and butter is. You know Michelle Bachmann. She's the beauty queen of the Tea Party movement. I mean, she's got a calling card. You could probably look at the rest of these. Rick Santorum, Catholic social conservative. You know what he's doing. You know what he's about. Hard to really pigeonhole what exactly it is Tim Pawlenty's about. I didn't get the sense that there was 1 or 2 issues that were really in his wheelhouse. I know some people on the fiscal issues that think he was soft on cap and trade in the past. I know some pro-lifers that think he's soft because he's got a list of exceptions. That would include people like, say, my mother-in-law, that he wouldn't mind being killed via abortion if that's what we have to do to get somewhere on the pro-life cause. But there's not really anything with Tim Pawlenty that really stands out. But I'm not sure that's really a bad thing. This could be a year, particularly if you're going up against a Barack Obama, and he's, of course, going to be a lot of flash and a lot of hype. Maybe having a steadying influence, a guy that's comfortable in his own skin, a guy that, doesn't have a whole lot of charisma, but wouldn't be considered boring either. He's just sort of a regular guy. Maybe having him as the contrast wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. But I do know this. If he's going to capture the Iowa caucuses, Tim Pawlenty's going to need to have 1 or 2 issues that he can really reach voters with. 1 or 2 issues where it's very clear there's at least some front that he's willing to fight on. Not just say, let's just be a little bit more conservative than the Democrats. Let's try to be a little bit more prudent than the Democrats. One thing I do believe Iowans want in this caucus cycle is they want people that are going to challenge the system. And I think Tim Pawlenty, who could be a lot of people's second choice, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if he wants to be somebody's first choice, or at least enough somebody's first choice to win the Iowa caucuses, then he's going to have to find 1 or 2 issues where he's willing to storm the Bastille. And so far, he hasn't shown that he has those issues. Thanks for joining us here at stevedeace.com. If you have any topics or questions you'd like us to address in our video blogs, email me, steve@stevedeace.com. Also check me out on Facebook and then Steve_Deace on Twitter. God bless.